to another Jefe Files. And on this episode, an edition of the Jefe Files, we're going to go over the removal of the black father from family and overall fatherlessness in general. Uh, I'm going to break this down into different sections. So, for this first episode, I'm gonna start with this post. I'm gonna put each link so you can go and check out each article if you want to in the description. But this article was about the dangerous myths of the missing black father, and it's going to be given to us by the Washington Post. And I'm gonna start with the myth, and then I'm gonna go into some history. So I'm gonna give you kind of like like a forethought how they kind of the myth and the background. You know what I'm saying? So, and on episode 2, I will go into the Moynihan report, which is it's a pretty not a lengthy read, but it's a pretty good read to it. And I'm just trying to keep all these videos within 45 minutes or so. Not try to just get some feedback from some of the people that's been watching, and even myself. I knew that some of these was going to be long, so I'm gonna try a new method. Try to break it down, and so we're gonna get right into it. So from the Washington Post. As I said, that headline, The Dangerous Myth of the Missing Black Father. The responsible fatherhood only goes so far. In a world plagued by institutionalized oppression. Now, before I go into this, let me just give a small, teeny, tiny background. I have a father of 2. My oldest, Kennedy, 8, she'll be 9 soon. I've been in Kennedy's life from day one. Never been mistaken. Never had any issues. 5 years later, I had another daughter, Amelia. And Amelia is 3 years old. And over the past 3 years, I probably have seen my daughter a combined 5 to 6 months. And her mom just ups and takes her and does what she does. So I was curious in my own self because I know a couple of guys who are going through the situation, and I'm just like, more than a couple. And it's just like, I want to kind of understand, they always say, they always try to make it seem like black men are, deadbeat, not there for the children. My father was there. His father was there. So I know a lot of good fathers and good men. And I just wanted to kind of understand, because I'm like, here I am forced into this statistic when I've done nothing to lose the opportunity to be a father. So this is personal, as well as gathering information from my own self, as well as hopefully giving you something that you didn't know. So let's just jump into it. Growing up, the lessons was everywhere. Every major problem in Black America can be solved if we address the problem of missing fathers. No longer is a person embarrassed because they're pregnant without a husband. Disgraced comedian and alleged rapist Bill Cosby said in 2004. No longer is a boy considered an embarrassment if he tries to run away from being the father of an unmarried child. When a police officer was killed in Jersey City in 2014 in July, a local television news reporter said on air, the underlying cause of the anti-cop mentality that has so contaminated America's inner cities was young black men growing up without fathers. A Reuters headline from 2007 proclaimed fathers' absence decimate black community in the U.S. So why is that? Why is that? I know. I just don't. Is it something systematic? Is it something cultural? President Obama has been one of the biggest advocates of this idea. In a 2008 speech delivered on Father's Day at a church on Chicago's South Side, the first viable black candidate for president of the United States chastised black fathers. Too many black fathers, he said, are missing from too many lives and too many homes. They have abandoned their responsibilities, acting like little boys instead of men. We know the statistics that children who grow up without fathers are 5 times more likely to live in poverty and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of schools, and 20 times more likely to end up in prison. They are more likely to have behavioral problems or run away from home or become teenage parents themselves. And the foundations of our community are weaker because of it. I don't I don't like that statement because there's so many people who are successful that came from that. I mean, not everybody, but what do we measure success by? Because they're on TV. You could be successful in your own right as far as you came up, you have a little small business, you make your nice little living off your small business, or you came in the country with $3, $4 in your pocket, and now you make $60,000 a year. Who's to say that's not a success for you and your family? Especially when a lot of these people send money back home, especially a lot of foreigners, African, Spanish, whoever, black. You investing out of country and doing what you're doing. I don't like that. Anyways, it became a staple in his speeches delivered to majority or all black audiences. As, as recent as last year, Obama said at a poverty summit, "I am a black man who grew up without a father, and I know the cost that I paid for that. However, responsible fatherhood only goes so far in a world plagued by institutionalized oppression. For black children, the presence of fathers will not alter racist drug laws, prosecutorial protection of police officers who kill, mass school closures, or the poisoning of their water. By focusing on the supposed absence of black fathers, we allow ourselves to pretend this oppression is not real, while also further scapegoating black men for America's societal ills." I do like that. I like that. I do think it's sometimes they try to use one thing to kind of like eclipse, like they put the moon perfectly in front of the sun, so it blocks out one major problem by trying to address put one other. No, it's a bigger issue than just black fathers and stuff. It's a whole system. It's the whole government. It's the way you brought us in. It's the way you forced us into the poverty. It's the way you put the drugs in our communities, put the drugs in their veins, and then arrested them for doing the thing, trying to make whatever. You get the point. In 1965, the New York Senator Patrick Moynihan published "The Negro Family: The Case for National Action," which I believe is the Moynihan Report or whatever, and I'm gonna do that next episode. It argued the number of women-led households in black communities was the largest obstacle to black people achieving economic and political equality. Since then, the issue of missing black fathers has been a top priority for black intellectuals, activists, and community leaders, as well as favorite retort from people seeking to deflect conversation about structural racism. Okay, and I am going to do a episode specifically about black women heads. That might be episode 3. Part 3. The thinking goes like this: the high rates of poverty and incarceration and low levels of educational achievement in black communities can be traced in part to a high number of black babies born out of wedlock and subs tongue and substance. I could. It's my like. Okay, I can't explain this. Under my tongue, I didn't get. It cut. I have a short tongue, and anyways, subsequently, sometimes I can't roll my R's. You get what I'm saying? But I can do other things. subsequently raised in a single mother's home. It's a patriarchal twist on the mythological, magical Negro. It's a patriarchal. It's a patriarchal. What is wrong with me right now? It's a patriarchal, patriarchal. Uh, okay, I guess it's like that. It's a patriarchal twist on the mythological, magical Negro. I'm just trying to say that straight through. It's a patriarchal twist on the mythological, magical Negro. Say that 3 times fast. Mythological, magical Negro. Mythological, magic. You try it out. Black fathers could supposedly stem the devastating effects of oppression imposed from the classroom to the workplace to the court system. If black men just showed up in the homes of their children, acted like men instead of boys, black families and communities would fortify themselves and our long held problems would simply wither away. You believe that? Because I don't. Of course, there are studies that show that children who grow up in two-parent homes perform better in school, are less likely to commit crime, and have higher future earning potential. What these students often don't take into account is the impact of depressed wages, chronic unemployment, discriminatory hiring practices, the history of mass incarceration, housing segregation, and inequality in educational opportunity, not just on family structure, but on the resources available to black families to produce results similar to their white counterparts. I like that. And there are other problems with romanticizing the family structure. Black nuclear families have been torn apart since the days of slavery. And since then, we have also reimagined the family structure, where the biological parents haven't been available. Aunts and uncles, grandmothers and grandfathers, and a host of family friends and play cousins have stepped in to do the work of raising children. Today, as prison removes more and more black men from the homes, we do the same. Wow, that was deep. I mean, we do say it takes a village. Is that just a black person, people, family saying, or is that every people saying? Well, because it takes a village because the dads aren't there. So we need the grandma, the grandpa, the uncle, the cousin, play cousin, stepsister, Uncle Benny, Tony, Tom, and Jerry to come and babysit babies. To say these other family formations are inherently deficient because there isn't a father is to say no one else is capable of providing adequate love to a child, while also teaching the children who grow up with that idealized nuclear family model that their lives are somehow wrong, raised to believe that they miss something vital. It's no surprise that children without fathers in the home have more behavioral problems, and that families with women led households are more likely to live in poverty speaks less to the necessity of fathers and more to the fact that a single income is no longer sufficient to support a family in this country, that our economy undervalues the work of women, and that outside child care is a prohibitively expensive luxury. Yes, it is. And it was like what we put like $350 a week at one time, and economic shift to real living wages for women's labor and the total societal investment in the well-being of all children would solve a number of the problems we think are only alleviated by fathers. There's something in there I wanted to go back and talk about. Hold up. It says something about to say these other family formations are inherently deficient because there isn't a father to say no one else is capable of providing adequate love to a child. Also teaching the children grew up without. Oh yeah, yeah. So like the whole growing up without a father makes you a murderer and a killer. Well, hey, the Menendez brothers, they had. I know a lot of rich, privileged people that came from good places that have families and grew up with multiple brothers and sisters and dad, uncle, mom, and everything. Still turned out to be pretty terrible people. So I don't. I never understood that either. I mean, there's a lot of women that raise kids by themselves, and the kids turn out just fine. It's just how you raise your children. If you keep attention and pay attention and spend time and actually hands-on with your kids instead of allowing the environment and the video games and the friends and the television and the social media and anything else influence them. That's why me and Kennedy, we have a very open relationship in that regard, where I tell her, "You come and talk to me." We've always had that thing. You talk to me, talk to me, you talk to me, mom. Don't go outside uh, of us to try to find truth. Internet can't give it to you. YouTube can't give it to you. We can't experience. Even with the presence of fathers in the home, the persistently high black male unemployment rate would do little to close the existing and increasing racial wealth gap, which is at a place where it would take 228 years of black households to catch up. It's hard to put this in adequate philosophy to rest. It's hard because the missing black father has caused so much pain. That hurt runs through the rhetoric of every well-meaning person who has ever admonished black fathers for not being in their children's lives. It's the foundation of Obama's first book. The pain of a missing father is real and can't be discounted. Another thing, like, people take the narrative and spin it. You never know the true stories for all this stuff. Who knows what Amelia's mom is running around saying? Oh, he didn't want to be with her in her life. He didn't this. Yes, yes, I did. Yes, I do, and I'm still looking to this day. So it's like we never really know the full story. It's just people. I don't necessarily all care to put it out there and get ahead of the story. Believe what you want. I lived the situation. I don't have to prove anything to you. That's a lot of stuff people need to understand. We don't have to prove anything to anybody else. I don't owe you an explanation. I don't owe you anything unless you're there for me and like we have that relationship of trust and you know, just trust in general. I don't owe you an explanation. I I tell my parents pretty much everything, and outside of them, I don't owe you any explanations. They brought me in this world, but so long as it at it, but so long as it is the only way we see this issue of the black family, the myth will continue to entangle us and prevent us from reckoning with what's real. The damage isn't done by the absence of a father, but from the feeling of abandonment. That black children were raised in an environment that focused not on the bemoaning their lack of fathers, but on filling their lives with the nurturing love we all need to thrive. What difference would an absent father make if they woke up in homes where electricity, running water, and food were never scarce? Went to school with teachers and counselors who provided everything they needed to learn, then went home to caretakers of any gender who weren't too exhausted to sit and talk and do homework with them. And no one ever said their lives were incomplete because they didn't have a father. Would they hold on the pain of lack? Would they hold on to the pain of lack well into adulthood? Would they hold on to the pain of lack well into adulthood? Okay, I thought I was reading wrong. Okay, that's how it's written. Well into adulthood. This isn't an argument in favor of deadbeat fathers, but a call to detach ourselves from the myth that the only and best way to raise a child depends on the presence of a man we call the father. Although it helps, it can go either way. Like I said, you have houses with two parents and child turns out wonderful, and they turn out they shoot the whole school up. Or you have a black family, you got two households and turn out the same way. Doesn't really make a difference. The person. Uh, that's how I feel. But you know, they always got to put color on our throw some color on it. Like, you know, put some respect on it. Put some black on it. Like just just gotta throw some black on it. So far, Obama has refused to break with the myth in response to the killing of Trayvon Martin and subsequent acquittal of George Zimmerman. His plan of action was a partnership between nonprofit organizations and corporations to provide increased mentorship for young black men called My Brother's Keeper, which has recently enlisted the star power of rapper Kendrick Lamar and NBA guard Stephen Curry. I tell you. I mean, maybe for y'all, those names mean something. So many don't. It takes like the community. You need. We all need to do better, and as far as trying to better not only just us but the youth because they watch us so closely. And you know, I had told this one girl on Facebook a few months ago. She posted some crap, and I was just like, yo, like, oh, I posted something basically saying like, I'm not saying as an adult not to have fun, but you got to remember that you have children and there's the next people, the next generation underneath watching you very closely. And although you feel though it's not your responsibility, it is because you're going to complain about it later. You're going to complain why these kids act like why they don't do this because we didn't teach them anything. You want to keep telling them this stuff. How about some positive for once? It's always negative. We're always giving out negative, negative, negative. No black father. No, no this, black that. How about black power, black excellence? Something. Teach us something else other than the just we get it. We get it. And if you don't get it, look it up, research. But I don't need to be reminded every day that we went through, you know, hell. Okay. I want to know that we can go up. I want to know that we can do Black Wall Street again. So there is nothing wrong with promoting mentorship. There's something wrong with a president who told us for years that he was not the president of Black America, but all America, and as if Black people were not part of America. Now putting forth his first racially specific program, and it's not being any policy, but rather a spate of philanthropic endeavors. It was insulting, but right in the line with his philosophy. As if he had been elected to the mentor in chief. As if mentors are all black boys need to survive. As if what he really meant was mentor as a stand in for father. As if he could save black boys by becoming their surrogate father. As if we can afford to continue believing the myth. Trayvon Martin had a father. Jordan Davis had a father. Michael Brown had a father. Tamir Rice had a father. Having a father will protect black boys from America. And that is the myth on from the Washington Post, which I will put into the link. Not a bad little article. Not bad at all. And let me see. So this one here, I don't know, cause I'm gonna try to. I wanna, like I said, I wanna do these in 45 minutes, but if I can't, the longest I'll go is an hour. So we got at least 30 minutes. This one is from the New York Times. The breakup of black family imperils gains of decades. It has a news clipping. So this news clipping is a digitalized version of an article from the Times print uh, archive online publication in 1996. At the height of the civil rights movement in 1965, when a quarter of black families with children were headed by women, Daniel Patrick Moynihan wrote in a report to President Johnson that this growing matriarchy was an important cause of poverty among black Americans. Mr. Moynihan, then a White House aide, created a furor, accused by many blaming the victims of their distress. Today, 18 years later, virtually half of black families are headed by single women, and 55% of black babies are born to unmarried mothers. Gun shy from the Moynihan experience, authorities for years were reluctant to speak out about the problem, but now politicians and scholars, black and white, liberal and conservatives, openly agree that the situation has reached such proportions that it threatens to undo the black economic gains of the past 3 decades. Growing alarm among blacks. The breakdown of traditional family structure is, they say, one of the underlying causes of black poverty. Not only because there is no man to provide family income, but also because women on the average earn much less than men. I don't know, because out here in the DMV, chicks killing it. So I don't know. I need to do this, study again here. It seems like all my friends in the DMV kicking butt. All the girls I know. So, moreover, many black spokesmen are saying for the first time that this is one of the most serious problems facing their communities, and that it may mean that larger and larger proportions of coming generations of blacks will grow up disadvantaged. I believe that, but okay. Eleanor Holmes North. Eleanor Holmes North commenting on black people. All right. That doesn't sound like a black person to me, but I might be wrong. A law professor at Georgetown University who was chairman of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission in the Carter administration. Jesus, could they have longer titles for these names? Termed the family crisis a threat to the future of black people without equal. The problem must be resolved, the experts say, because otherwise society at large will have to pay the price, either in compensatory measures to proper fractured lives or in strife and social conflict as the gap widens between the privileged and the excluded. An unmistakable An unmistakable correlation. Okay, that's the next section that has it. It is an open question which is more important, that breakdown in family structure causes poverty, or that poverty is a cause of the breakdown. Because not because, but the correlation between the two is unmistakable, and it is prompting a serious debate over the causes of the problem and search for solutions. A study last summer by the Center for the Study of Social Policy, a nonpartisan research group, showed that in all races, families headed by women were twice as likely as two-parent families to be poor. Sheesh. Half of all families headed by black women have incomes below the poverty line, the study showed. The study noted that in 1981, the average income of black families with two working parents was 84% of the average for white families where both parents worked, an increase from 73% 13 years earlier. In contrast, the primary reason that the average income for all black families with children was just 56% of the average for whites, the study concluded, was that 47% of the black families were headed by women, as against 14% of the white ones. Losses exceed gains. Since black female headed households are the most rapidly increasing proportion of all black families, the fact that they have not gained economic ground has more than offset the increases made by other types of black families, the report said. The principal author of the report was the director of the center, Tom Joe, who was a welfare official in the Nixon administration. I'm also going to do another episode. Let me just. It says, so the headline is "Slavery Did Not Destroy Black Families, Welfare Did." So we're going to get into that as well. In one sense, according to some experts, single black mothers may represent a vanguard. These experts suggest that more and more white women will become single parents as they build a longer tradition of working and financial independence. But the far-reaching effects on the black community might be mitigated among whites, partly because white women tend to get divorced less often than blacks and tend more often to remarry. Excuse me. I'm probably right on that one. I was watching Snapped, and this lady was on her 10th husband, this white lady. 10? You got married 10 times? If you told me you got married 8 times and that was the 9th, no, I'm good. Nah. The problem of single mothers, black and white, are compounded by the fact that working women, on the average, earn much less than men, according to the Census Bureau. The median earnings of working black women last year were actually slightly higher than those of working white women, 7,802 against 7,640. I guess that's the money. but the average working man earned about twice as much, 15,373. With the next gen, what are you talking about? A year? Oh, what were they saying? It was up 7,802 for black women against 7,000. There's no way they're saying that's what the people are averaging making in a year. 7,000. You can't live off 7,000. There's 12 months in a year. You wouldn't even make $1,000 a month. Like, it has to be an average of what it went up. Has to be. Okay. With the next generation, Mrs. Norton said we could see proportionately greater numbers of disadvantaged people than in this generation because of the proportion of children who got their start in life as the children of single girls and women. Experts voice disagreement. There's always going to be disagreement because it's opinion. Everything's opinion based. So all these fake statistics and facts. Nobody asked me a damn question, so I don't know where to get the statistics from. I always see that they talk to this many people. Well, who? You ain't talking to me. While the politicians and social scientists agree that the dissolution of black family structure has been a main cause of poverty among blacks, they disagree sharply over why such okay. They disagree sharply over why disintegration has occurred and over the possible remedies. Disintegration. I'm saying it too fast. Why such disintegration has occurred and over the possible remedies. One camp, which includes many members of the Reagan administration, argues that the nation's welfare system has encouraged families to split up and has led to a state of welfare dependency for generation and generation of blacks. They will reduce government social programs, require able individuals in welfare to work, and place more emphasis on apprehending fathers and forcing them to support their children. Another camp, comprising many liberals and most, but not all, black scholars believe that the causes are much more complex but center on the history of discrimination against blacks in this country and the inability of black men to find work to support their families. They say the situation would be much worse if not for the government welfare programs, and they would expand both those programs and various social services designed to counsel black families, discourage teen age pregnancies, and help single women with children to make their own. Here are the arguments advanced by the experts in both camps. Welfare. For many years, the nation's primary welfare program, aid to families with dependent children, denied benefits to the families if an adult male was in the house. The bar was stricken in 1968, and states were permitted but not required to cover two pair of families in which the would-be breadwinner was unemployed or underemployed. Some people believe that the man in the house rule has contributed to the family breakup by forcing fathers to leave the home. Others disagree. Mr. Joe, for example, noted that New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and 18 other states, which together account for 70% of the nation's families on welfare, offer aid that covers unemployment by offers aid that covers unemployed fathers in the home. Yet only about 300,000 such families are covered out of the national welfare caseload of 3.6 million families. War on poverty is blamed. The conservative economist George Gilder asserts that the conservatives were right in their prediction that the income redistribution programs of President Johnson's war on poverty will result in destroying the incentives of the families of the poor. An attack this fall on what we term the welfare state disaster. Mr. Gilder wrote, current programs will continue to create a criminal underclass of enlisted male welfare beneficiaries who exploit the welfare trap by living off a series of female recipients and extend it by violence ever deeper into the heart of our cities and our national consciousness. Mr. Joe, whose organization has been conducting a detailed study of the Reagan administration 1981 cuts in welfare programs, said a dual system of family law, one of the rich, the other for the poor, was evolving. He cited an example a new welfare regulation requiring, he said, that if a stepfather enters the home, he's liable for not only the support of the mother, but also of the kids. Okay, then we got something else to add in this. We need to look into the Reagan administration. The Reagan administration seems to have played a nice little piece in this puzzle. All right, why you keep skipping over it? Thank you. He said that this meant that a working man who wished to marry a woman on welfare would face the prospect of assuming responsibility for the support of the children that was not his. Many states, New York among them, have had difficulty even defining what a stepfather is. What? Mr. Joe added, poverty culture disputed. What do you mean? Arguing with a stepfather. You're married to the mom. That's what it is. So called, and I have kids, and she has kids. So called cultural poverty theories have long held that dependence on welfare can become so entrenched that it creates its own subculture with values that encourage remaining in poverty and attitudes that discourage self reliance. A pioneering study by the University of Michigan's Institute for Social Research, one of the few research projects that followed welfare recipients for many years, disputes such theories. In a report released last month, the Institute said that at least among blacks, long term welfare dependency as a child does not necessarily lead to long term welfare dependency as an adult. The Michigan study team, headed by Dr. Martha S. Hill, also found that while children from poor households are more likely to be poor as young adults, nevertheless, parental attitudes and values, with few exceptions, did not make any difference in the economic well being of the child after they left home. I personally, uh, my mom used to, when I was on, like, when I first got on my own, she used to always say, go and apply for food stamps. I'm like, no. I tell her that all the time. Nope, not. I'm about to live off the government. I'm like, you made it your way, right? You doing good. I'm gonna be all right. So, and I pushed through. Teenage pregnancy. One reason more black children than white children live in single parent families is the higher degree of teenage pregnancies among blacks. I do not believe that. I don't believe that. There's no way. There's way more white people than black people. You're telling me that all of our young, really out. I don't know. I'm gonna look that up. Among all unmarried women 15 to 19 years old in 1979, do it now. Blacks were 50% more likely than whites to have had sexual intercourse, according to a survey published by Who Cares. More than 1 in 4 blacks was born to a teenage mother in 1979, according to figures compiled by Children. Well, I don't. The group found that the birth rate declined among single black teenagers in the 1970s, but dropped even faster among older and married black women. Studies show these groups are more likely to use contraception or have abortions than unmarried black teenagers. Thus, the proportion of young single mothers among blacks rose. In addition, sexual activity among blacks in this age group appeared not to be increasing, while such activity among white teenagers was growing rapidly. The gut the gut matcher who found okay conservatives cite welfare. Some authorities think the government encourages teenage pregnancies by providing a haven for young mothers and by creating a dependency in people who otherwise would have to find some way to survive on their own. If you look at that data, said Robert B. Carlson, President Reagan's advisor for social policy development, as the welfare system has gotten more expansive, there is a correlation between the growth of programs and the explosion of families in the teenage group. He said the failure to form families in the first place was regarded by the administration as an even greater problem than family breakup. This is probably the toughest welfare problem there is, because the welfare system provides money, free medical care, food stamps, and other things to a woman who has a child if she's single. The question is, does that encourage or induce, or in any other way, cause the problem of teenage pregnancy? Media pressures, blame. I don't believe that. I just personally don't believe that to be true. You know, I think it was white women having kids at 15, 14, just like black people were back in the day, just like Spanish people, just like any people. These, like I said, they just keep trying to throw some black on it. Throw some black on it. Uh, like Dave Chappelle, sprinkle a little crack on it. Throw some black on it. Marion Wright Edelman. President of the Children's Defense Fund, blamed the relaxed sexual mores. Blamed the relaxed sexual mores that have evolved in American society in the last 20 or so years, particularly the sexually charged messages of contemporary entertainment, motion pictures, television, and popular music. Yep. The message they convey to children is anything goes. Yes, it does. Some scholars assert that the poor economic prospects of black teenagers may have wrought a fundamental change of mores in the black community. Dr. Harriet Pipes McAdoo. Harriet Pipes McAdoo, a sociologist at Howard University who has specialized in the study of disadvantaged women and children, said the tradition used to be that if a woman got pregnant, they were expected to get married, if not forced to get married, to supply income and name for the child. But if the man has no job, there's no impetus for them to get married. Her parents will have 3 people to support instead of just 2. The boy will become an additional burden on the family. Parents feel, why should I force her to marry him? He'll be a drain. Whites more often marry. A study by the National Center for the Health Statistics, the only available research on the subject, found that in 1972, 49.5% of white women who conceived out of wedlock married before their babies were born. For black women, the figure was 11.7%. The figures were not broken down by age. Could you imagine hearing a black dude back in the 70s something? What, sucker? You jive turkey? That ain't my baby. I wonder how they would have told it. What? You, what do you call it? Nah, chicken heads later. Not even funny. You jive turkey? That ain't my baby. I seen you messing with that cat with the big fro. The Children's Defense Fund also cites limited research based on reports that 8 states in 1979 showing that among all pregnant teenagers, 41% of whites had abortions, while only 26% of blacks did. But among pregnant, older, and married women, blacks are almost twice as likely to have an abortion as whites, Charlie Weiss, as whites. The research showed. Unemployment. We're getting close. I'm trying to get through this. A number of policy analysts believe that the underlying cause of the increase in black families headed by women and the sharp increase in the joblessness of black men. The name of this game is not marriage. The name of this game is income, said Mr. Joe, author of the recent study that addressed black poverty. Joblessness is reflected not simply in the unemployment recorded in monthly government figures, which is nevertheless higher for blacks than for other major ethnic groups, which makes me believe, like I said, it's systematic. Government, you know what they're doing. This also includes the growing number of discouraged workers who have given up looking for jobs, and the many black men given up looking for jobs, and the many black men in America's cities and rural areas who lacking jobs and permanent addresses are not counted by the census takers. Exactly, because I ain't seeing census. Among black teenagers, the official unemployment rate hovers around 50%, but according to Sar Levitan, an unemployment analyst, only 1/6 of them have jobs because so many have dropped out of or never joined the labor force. Women as breadwinners. From 1960 to 1982, families headed by black women as a percentage of all black households with children rose to 47% from 21%. Over the same span, the percentage of unemployed adult black men plunged to 55% from 74%. Some studies suggest that if the black men who cannot be enumerated by census takers were added to the total, the result would show that fewer than half of the adult black men in the country have jobs. Even those black men who do work earn significantly less than white men, an average of 10,500 last year against women 15,964 for white men. Conservative theories, including many in the Reagan administration, argued that main cause of the high joblessness is not discrimination, but rather the absence among many blacks of basic working skills. What? What do you mean absence of among many blacks of basic working skills? It's not hard to do basic working skills. You work. You just if you got to be you move a box or you move the box from here to the shelf. If you're a stalker, I don't see. If you're sweeping, what type of basic do you need to working? Do you just move a broom? I'm just saying. Administration officials say blacks should emulate the. I'm not saying that's the best jobs we can get. I'm just saying basic working skills is thinking, writing, reading, right? So like, whatever, problem solving. Administration officials say blacks should emulate the experience of those alien in this country illegally who started in the lowest level jobs and worked their way up through the system. The same are they saying hold up. They said we should emulate out. I'm gonna leave that one alone. But many who had studied the problems of the black family say historic and continuing discrimination against black men robs many of the ability to function as the family breadwinner. Scholars cite racism. The present black family crisis, characterized chiefly by the precipitous growth of poor female-headed households, can be traced almost directly to American racism, said a report by 30 black scholars who met in Tarrytown, New York earlier this year. The group ranked the issue of the black family equally with the economy and education as the critical concerns of the black community. Among dozens of black women heading families who were interviewed in several cities by the New York Times, they were many who observed, like Miriam, a Harlem resident who did not want her last name used, that while they were able to make a living, their men were not. He used to say, "You're going here, there, and everywhere, and I'm going nowhere." He just didn't have any drive. I was moving ahead and he was moving backwards. After a while, he just couldn't take being besetted by a woman. He started to hate me, but most of all, he hated himself. That's a lot of truth into. I have a particularly personal story with that. And it's not with me, but with watching my mom and her marriage, her husband. Some psychiatrists regard such a reaction as the classic response to a sense of futility that grows within many black men and boys when they believe the cards are stacked against them. Dr. James Comer, this professor, child psychiatry at Yale, said many black men came to feel that instead of trying against high odds and failing, it was better not to try. No, I learned that it's best to try and fail than to not try at all. Because you might try and you actually might succeed, or at least catch somebody's eye, not get maybe not that position, but you might get something else to get your foot in, and then you can just work your way up. So bad mindset, push. Can't just walk through doors. Sometimes you gotta push through them. You gotta kick them open. In a society where the male is supposed to be the breadwinner, he says something that's still deep in our psychology. It's a tremendous psychological burden when you know you don't have a snowball's chance of hell of taking care of your family. One of the defenses is not to care, to not do, not try. Dr. Coleman said the American system to justify itself had to rationalize its abuses of blacks. Therefore, he said it has to not only deny a black male, but it has to destroy him, put him down, make him look stupid, inadequate, and weak. Moreover, he maintained men who see no opportunities for making it in the job market and establishing themselves and seeing themselves as inadequate, often seek adequacy in adulthood as males by producing a baby. Mm, I guess it's, show your masculinity. Females often seek to prove that they are somewhat worth and value by producing a child. Mr. Carlson, President Reagan's assistant, we know who he is. Was concerned with avoiding writing off persistently jobless black men as the hardcore unemployed. What? I wonder what they really have written down as far as like how they feel about like their notes on black people. Probably some of the worst written notes taken you ever seen. But the fact of the matter is that they're not going to be able to get any jobs that are there because of their basic skills that they lack. He said, adding, the fact that so many illegal aliens are coming in and on the bottom rung and going up the ladder, that's evidence you've got to have those basic skills. No, it's not. It could be after maybe that guy been busting his ass for 30 years and not getting anywhere. This guy that just came, like, literally came from a war zone, came over here and just hit the ground running. He's motivated to come over here and do something. He's been, by the black man, has been beaten down by the whole situation for the over the length of time. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with, you can't compare somebody who's coming from, like, I know a lot of people at that point with Venezuela. Venezuela's probably still going through it. Who's going through all that craziness, and say somebody come from there. You just came from a war zone, and then you're able to make some actual money and like really blitz the job, or you're motivated to be here where it's not fighting anymore and all this. When you've been here, been oppressed and beaten down by the system, of course now you feel like, look, I don't have nothing else to give. So don't compare the two. I hate, that's not a good argument. I'm not feeling that. Women as vanguard. Black women have been in the workforce in large numbers for much longer than white women. After World War II, millions of blacks left southern farms. The women often recruited to work as maids for northern whites, the men to work in the factories. Mechanization began to eliminate sharecropping, whatever, mechanization. That's what I'm gonna call it. Mechanization, whatever. Began to eliminate sharecropping, the economic system that replaced slavery in the South. The consequences were widespread. Black families and communities that had functioned as an economic and social units for decades on the farm were cut adrift and scattered, and extended family structures surviving from African traditions and its attendant values largely succumb to the impersonal isolations of the city. Even among the middle class, which for white women has customarily meant staying home to care for a family, black women income has usually been needed to keep the family at mid-income level. As a result, black women early and other women have made the next step of having and supporting children independently. Over the past 20 years, white women's participation in the labor force has been catching up and has now passed that of black women. In 1960, 43.6% of black women were employed, as against 34.6% of whites. In 1970, it was 44.9%, 44, yeah, 0.9% of black women against 40.3% white. And last year, the proportion of black women working leveled off at, black women working leveled off at 44.8%, while white women jumped to 48.4%. But that could also be because a lot of the black women are becoming entrepreneurs. So I think that could possibly, we're not in the working, what's it called, anymore, because they're bosses and they're running shit. As white women had entered the labor force, the percentage of female-headed households among whites, while much smaller than among blacks, has risen, and at a rate almost as rapid. Among white families, 2.8% were headed by women in 1950, 6% 1960, 13% 1982, compared to 8.3%, 20%, 47% for blacks in those same years. So I'm trying to just. So we're going to wrap this up now. I'm gonna just get to the point. Yeah. So they say a remedy controversy is growing about potential remedies to the breakdown in the traditional black family structure. Some analysts, primarily but not exclusively politically conservatives, argue that governmental programs have undermined the nuclear family structure. They say poor people, generally in blacks in particularly, will be better off without such intervention. I believe so. Makes you it takes the drive away. A lot of people too dependent on government assistance, and they lost that like will to get up and actually go and get some money and work for your children. That's why I never accepted uh, state help. Never wanted it. Never needed it. Yeah, I'm strong, baby. Black don't crack, can't kill me. You want to really like. You want to really. You want to cut the head off like Thanos, because I'm not. I'm just hard body, not breaking. Been through a lot of hell. Still here. Uh, Mr. Gilder, the conservative economist, maintains, for example, illegitimacy means that the sons will be brought up in homes where money is seen as an always inadequate entitlement to women from the state. Many of these youth express no comprehension of the requirements of a job. Most have hardly ever met a working man who supports his children. They will find their manhood not by emulating adults, but by the fierce street rivalries with their peers. But he continues, any girl is offered an irresistible solution by the U.S. government. It is it presents her at age 16 a chance for independence in the apartment of her own, free housing, medicine, legal assistance, and a combination of payments and food stamps worth several $100s a month. There is only one crucial condition: she must bear an illegitimate child. Wow, wow. Others include civil rights groups, and most political liberals argue that without the existing income, educational, and social supports flawed through they are, the situation would be much worse, and that such assistance must be strengthened rather than abandoned. We're coming to the close. We're coming down. We're coming down. 295. About to jump off on that greenbelt exit. I'm about to ride 198. No, what's that? 193. Straight down into Bowie. We coming down. The Reagan administration is promoting its community work experience program will work fair as a federally financed program to put the un, the unemployed to work for local public agencies in return for their income payments. Mr. Carlson, the presidential aide, can they stop with that? Said low skill jobs in parks departments, for example, would equip the jobless with the work habits they need to make them employable by private industries. Others argue, however, that the black workers have been have once again been disproportionately disproportionately displaced by major structural changes in the unemployment employment market. Excuse me, I'm trying to rush and it's messing me up. I need to slow down. And in the employment market, similar to the demise of the Southern agricultural economy. Jesus Christ, I'll just get it together. We're gonna go over that again. Sorry. Others argue, however, that black workers have once again been disproportionately displaced by major structural change in the employment market, similar to the demise of the Southern agricultural economy, and it is inequitable to advance as solutions, then they start again on the bottom rung. I thought that was going to be the end, and now they got way more stuff. I'm not reading all that. Well, so that's just a little bit of myth. They gave us like just kind of going through that the myth, and then a little bit of statistics to go to try to see what the separation is. I don't agree for everything I read. Um, they try to pigeonhole us into these like, I don't believe that you know I personally believe that we're being manipulated by just the system. It's always been that way. So is there a problem with the father, the fatherlessness? Yeah, there is. There's also a problem with the government, and there's also problems with us getting jobs, and it's been like a systematic, uh, like attack to just break us up. Just read that last little piece, like they for women to get a certain type of uh, grant or help from the government, you need to say that you know you have a child without a father. Where's all those programs for the guys too? I mean, I get women birth to children and stuff, but sheesh. I mean, wouldn't it benefit to have the father with the kid and the mom? It's like you promote it. So yeah, that's it for episode one. I mean, part one on episode three. Excuse me. Part two coming very soon, and that's when we're going to get into the morning harm report. So, see you next time on the Jefe Files.